Oh, no, not at all.
Yeah. So, you know, the reason I did that little thing that we just did was to show that sometimes people buy things because they want them. Sometimes they buy things because they need them. And a lot of times buyers, when they're out there looking for houses, they may, I don't know if you've ever had a buyer do this, but sometimes my buyers will start out at a certain price range and they will realize very quickly that they can't get everything that they want or everything that they need in that price range. And so they'll go up. So it kind of helps us to really have that thought. You've had that too, Jonesy? You're muted.
Yes, yes, like in a very frustrating way, yes.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes it is frustrating if they won't go up, but anyway, and those are buyers, and we're gearing our thought on sellers, but in reality, we have to have a buyer to sell something, right? So what are some things that you think as agents? And let me ask you this, how many of you have ever sold a house prior to getting into real estate? Stephanie?
I have.
Yes, I saw my
Bobby? Okay. So can you guys talk to me about your process? I have as well. And I still remember something that my agent did that was not good. You know, she lied about something. She didn't keep her word about something. And I still remember that. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that I never would have used her again. But I might not have, you know. So what are some experiences that you guys had prior to getting into real estate and selling a home?
Mine was so long ago, but
okay.
I didn't really have a bad experience.
Okay, good.
It's
well, that's great.
It is, yeah, because that's why I'm in this business. No, but I didn't really have a bad experience. I'm trying to think.
Well, that's good. Good. What is it that you felt like was a great part of your experience?
I remember looking back at it now. I mean, she did the buyer presentation. You know, she showed, you know, because, you know, when you're first selling a condo or buying your condo, it's just kind of, yeah, let's go. And so it was knowing the type of business. I mean, you know, she came in, she sat down, she, you know, did her CMA, which at that time I had no idea what, you know, that was.
Sure.
Why she was going to price my condo. I was that person that was like, well, my condo's on the first floor, and walked out to the woods, you know, yada, yada, yada. So she educated me on that. And then, but yeah, I remember her, you know, she texted when there was a showing. So it was a very, very nice process.
That's awesome. Bobby, you were?
Yeah. For me, it was very different than that. I was just leaving Kansas City, and just matter of fact, I just closed on the house a week ago Friday. And so I was building the house for me, or redoing the house for me. And so I was way over invested in it. So so I decided I would try to, I'm going to become a real estate agent, right? So I said, well, let me just sell it on my own. And then I said, well, let me just go through FSBO just so I don't have to worry about commissions. And I'll just do it that way and offer a 3%, you know, buyer commission. And wow, was that a horrible experience, and something I'm able to use that now to share with anybody that's you know, awesome. I mean, I had nobody to talk to ask questions to. I did the full broker, kind of the transactional situation with them, where I paid like $400. And so, you know, yes, it got me on the MLS, and yes, it sold the first weekend. You know, I had 3 buyers. It went smooth as far as that point, that side of it. But I had nobody to talk to. And fortunately, the buyer's agent was really helpful and kind of guided me through certain things, or I would have never made it through it, honestly. So it's definitely anybody that comes to me now that says, I'm going to do it myself, or I say, whoa, I got an experience to share with you of my own. And so I feel like that's a really powerful thing for me.
Absolutely. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit, or let's talk about the initial prep work of getting a house on the market. I honestly think that the prep is the most important thing. Where do buyers shop first?
Online.
Online. So what are they looking at online?
They're looking at inventory. They're looking at Zillow. They're comparing their
Pictures.
house to their neighbor's house.
Things they can't afford.
Yes.
Mm.
Getty.
So Bobby, you were saying they're looking at pictures.
Pictures that's what sold my house. I had professional pictures for
Mhm.
sure.
So let's talk even prior to pictures. When you're at a seller's house, and we live in America, right? We all have our stuff. I usually tell a seller, I'm not against your stuff. We all have it. You've never been to my house. You don't know how much stuff I have. However, when a buyer comes in here, you don't want them to see your items. You want them to see how large your house is. And so I'll tell you, I am a bulldog when it comes to my pictures. And I've just sold a $400,000 three-story condo that sits on the river. And those sellers were like, thank you so much for caring. Because even though their house was gorgeous and immaculate, they still had hand soap sitting on the bathroom sink, and I won't have it in my pictures. I won't have toilet paper rolls in my pictures. I won't have hanging towels on, stoves or ovens. I won't have any of that in my pictures. I want everything to be super duper clean, so that, have you ever scrolled through the MLS and just went, oh, just was like, just taken back, because the pictures and the stuff and the dirt and garbage cans, and why are you going to take a picture of a bedroom that has all the boxes in it and show it to my buyer? And if you don't care enough online, believe me, when I go in there, it's going to be dirtier. It's going to be more cluttered. And I just won't take my buyers in there. Do any of y'all feel the same way?
Oh, I totally feel that way. We were this summer, just personally, we were looking to buy a home with more land. So I was that person on Zillow and Redfin. I mean, I was obsessed. And you took the words out. I mean, I couldn't believe some of these photos. I'm like, who in their right mind would allow them to put those photos up? Because if that's what's on the surface, who knows what's behind the scenes, what you can't see. So I just couldn't believe that. Yeah, boxes and just, it was a clutter. And I'm thinking, like you said, those are the photos. I'm like, and that's what's on the surface. Who knows what's been between your walls and under your carpets.
Right.
So yes, disgusting. It blows
So
my mind to see that.
Yeah, if you as an agent do not prep your sellers initially, then you're doing them a terrible disadvantage. And the house is going to sit there a lot longer than not. So I'm not saying, and I'm not a super clean house cleaner or whatever, but I'm saying, don't have clutter sitting around. All your kitchen countertops need to be totally cleared off. You can put all that stuff under the cabinet, and when we're done with pictures, you can get it back out. People know you still live there. But I think that is the most important step. I highly recommend as well to agents, and I balked at this when I was a new agent because I was hanging on to those pennies. And when you do that, you can't open your hands to God giving you the dollars. I highly recommend finding a photographer that you feel comfortable with, that has the same mentality as you, in being precise in your pictures and being a perfectionist in a way, it will definitely pay off and get your home sold quicker. What are other prep things that you think you can do with your sellers prior to it even going on the market before you really have to get into the guts of selling the home?
Staging. For the
Staging.
photographs.
Do you hire a stager, Jonesy?
Well, Melanie, my team leader, she does. We have a stager.
Okay.
Works with us.
Do you do it for every listing?
I want to just about.
Okay.
I mean, just about, because it makes a big difference in the pictures.
Do
And
your clients pay for that, or do you guys pay for
we
it?
do. I believe we do.
Okay. That's okay.
She gets paid.
Yeah.
I have a
Does
question.
anyone else use a stager?
I have a quick question though.
Yeah.
You guys about with the photographer. So do we pay for the photographer too?
I do. I pay for the photographer. You're going to get your money back. I believe that as a realtor, you know, there are some things that we need to do to get the house prepped. Have I eaten some of that money? Yes. You know, if me and a seller don't get along and we part ways, yes. But in the long run, 99% of the time, it pays off. So I have a photographer that is $75.
That's what I was going to ask. What's an average cost?
Yeah. And then if I want drone pictures, and I will take drone, if there's land, if there's pretty much that's it. I mean, if there's a view like the condo I just put on the river, if I want to show the river view, I will have drone pictures taken. And he's about $125 for those.
Can you share that, who that is?
Yes. Yes. Chad Self. And I could put him in the chat room.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Pretty phenomenal guy. And he knows, like sometimes in a bathroom, if there's a rug down by the toilet and if he didn't catch it and I go in there, because I do go with him. Because sometimes we've been known to move everything off the refrigerator and stick it in the oven until we're done with pictures. Whatever we have to do to make sure that the pictures are done in a professional manner. That's another pet peeve of mine, to see people's food on top of the refrigerator in a listing photo. It's ridiculous.
I want to stick in something. If you put stuff in the stove, make sure you take it out. I've done that before and forgot something, and the seller turned the stove on and melted all kinds of plastic stuff in the stove. So,
oh, Marcia, I'm so sorry.
Well, you learned the lesson.
Yes, one time I forgot to get all the medicines that my seller left out, and I stuck them down underneath in some drawer or something. She called me. She's like, "Can you tell me where my medications are?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I put everything back."
I don't know if it's necessarily on topic, but a couple of days ago on Twitter, there was a big thread where they had it on there where somebody listed their house, and like there was just so much junk and throughout the whole house in the pictures. And like they had I don't know, I guess it went viral on there or whatever, but there was just post after post where it was like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Like they were finding different things in the house, like a scavenger hunt in the pictures.
Oh my gosh.
It was pretty wild.
That's ridiculous, isn't it? What about light bulbs? Has anybody thought about light bulbs as part of your prep? And why would you care about light bulbs?
Because you want a bright, clean look. You don't want shadows and dark spaces in your photography.
Okay. And what about as it's getting dark now, right? Don't you want to be able to make sure that the light bulbs are new and that when people come in to see your home or the home that you're selling, you want them to be able to see, right? How many
Absolutely.
people have ever walked into a house you're showing a buyer and half the light bulbs are burned out? Or the inspector comes and he said, this light doesn't work and that light doesn't work. And all it is just a light bulb.
Or if it's during the day, you know, and it is light out, they don't have the windows out, you know, the shades aren't open or anything, and it just doesn't. That's why I always try to get there, obviously, a little, if you can, you know, a
Right.
little
Yeah.
bit before and open it all up and make it look bright, because I love natural light. It can make such a
Yes.
difference, you know.
Thomas, can you unmute yourself and help me understand what your chat thing is? Our house looks terrible on Zillow. My wife is a photographer and it's crazy how beautiful it is here comparatively. So you're saying that the pictures on Zillow don't look as good as your house really looks? Thomas? Hello. I guess he's not on. Oh, he says correct. Okay. Thomas, you in your birthday suit, you don't want to show yourself? No, I'm kidding. Okay, so what are some other things that we can do to prep? Let's get really in the nitty gritty of prepping a house.
Declutter is like
Declutter.
huge.
Yeah, huge, right?
Finding any, I know in some houses that Melanie has listed, there's sometimes obvious, like certain repairs that, you know, we'll have them do before we list it. Just not major
Great.
things, just little things, you know.
Yeah,
Keep on the wall and the dog scratched something, you know.
yeah, great. Let's talk a little more about that. Usually when I am speaking to a seller about prepping their house, I always say, you want to put money into your house for 3 reasons. 1, you're going to stay and enjoy it, which they're not going to at that time because they're trying to sell it. 2, you want it to sell faster. Or 3, you want to recover that money and then some, right? So sometimes they're like, oh, but I did a listing appointment the other day with someone and they were like, oh, my house is terrible. It needs to be all painted. And it didn't need to be all painted. If she was going to put any money into it, I would have told her to put money into the kitchen or something like that. So I think really thinking those things through with your seller. Another thing is changing rooms back to the rooms that they're supposed to be. Like if your client uses their dining room for their office, change it back to a dining room. Does that make sense? So that people can see what those rooms are supposed to be utilized for.
Yeah, you want to see, you know, what the home is capable of. Of course, you want to show.
Yeah. Yeah.
You kind of have to help them see the vision sometimes.
Good point. Any other prepping that you guys can think of?
Well, I have a question. You know, I watch and listen to all the videos, you know, all the different classes and whatnot, and a lot of them bring up the pictures. What kind of conversation do you usually have with someone about actually taking down pictures? Because that seems more personal to someone. You know, it's one thing to say, you know, we want everything off the countertops, but it's another thing to say, take down the pictures of your family on the walls. How do you word that when you talk to someone?
Anybody have any suggestions? Marcia, do you have any suggestions?
I usually will tell people that I don't want them to know who lives in the house. Because when I'm a buyer's agent, I'm looking at those pictures and I'm trying to get an idea of what's going on. And I don't want I don't want buyer's agents to come in and know who lives there. I've seen some pretty offensive things in people's houses. So you definitely want to, you know, tell them, and I bring boxes. You know, I'm saying, here, you know, get started packing up your personal things because you want to take care of those things when you're moving. So go ahead and start packing them up.
I walked in and I had my nephew as the buyer. I walked into this house, opened the door, was totally in shock, and closed the door back and looked at him and said, "There's pornographic images on the walls. I don't know if you want to go in." And he said, "I saw it." He said, "It's okay." But things like that, that's a little ridiculous. Why didn't that selling agent tell them? And I told him in the feedback, it was just unprofessional and unacceptable.
Well, I know for me, I'm thinking they've got to come down anyway. These pictures have got to come down. It's not if they're planning on moving, these pictures are not going to be staying if it's their family pictures. So why not go ahead and get a head start on that? That's, to me, that's the neat thing about it, is you can give them an opportunity to get a head start and make their house more sellable. It's like twofold.
Whenever we put pictures on the wall, it actually makes the walls look smaller. And one of the things we want them to see is the potential. And of course, they can always envision their own pictures on those walls, but pictures do make walls and rooms look smaller. Of course, they're great decoration.
I can tell you what our team does, which is, like I mentioned, we have a stager we use. So she won't necessarily go in and get all new furniture, but she'll have them arrange it certain ways and tell them, he tells them what to take down. So Melanie says, I let her be the bad guy. So she tells them, okay, let's pack up all this clutter.
Yeah.
Like maybe some of these pictures with your kids, so everyone doesn't see your kids, things like that. And we just let her be the bad guy. And then great.
Yeah.
And
And I think,
trust her.
oh, sorry, Jonesy. I think somebody else already said this, but I think it's a safety thing too. And I think somebody touched on that, but I was a police officer for a long time, and safety to me is really like at the very top of the list for my clients. You know, obviously along with respect and everything else and having their best interest, but safety is big. And you never know who's going to come in there and look at their picture and say, "Oh, she's pretty. I'm going to, come back and stalk her," or whatever. I know that sounds crazy, but yeah, but I've seen some crazy stuff.
Wow.
Oh, Jonesy, Claire's asking who our stager is. Her name's Glennis, and she's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, will y'all put that in the chat? Will y'all put that in the chat?
Yeah.
So Bill, I will say, I learned a lot just listening to everyone, because I have often said a long time ago that was a huge deal for you not to have your personal pictures in. But anymore, I don't see it as a big deal. So I think it's a personal preference what you choose to tell your sellers. And the pornographic picture that I was talking about was not a photograph of someone in the house. It was just naked bodies. But anyway, let's see. Somebody else, Thomas said this, which is huge. Thank you, Thomas, for bringing it up. Curb appeal. You only get one first impression, and that is online, because everybody looks online first. Your second impression is when you're at the front door, right? And if you're curb appeal, like I went to a listing appointment yesterday, and it was an elderly couple, and I felt bad to tell them, but they wanted me to tell them, and I wasn't going to not tell them. But their bushes were up almost to the tip top of their house, and they had to come down. Nobody can see their gorgeous porch and their beautiful home. They can't see it because their bushes are overwhelming. So Thomas, you're exactly right. Curb appeal is big. He says, clean up the front yard, make sure the landscaping doesn't look like it's dying. Like I have a black thumb and I kill everything. So yeah, that's a great point, Thomas. Making sure that that's, that's a big deal. And what do y'all think about front doors being painted if they need some painting, or to give it a pop, for the sellers?
I think that depending on the condition of the front door, that's the first thing people see when they walk up.
Yeah.
First impression, curb appeal, You want them to enter
Absolutely.
the house with a smile, excited. So if your door is ugly and the paint's peeling, they're going in with a bad impression already.
Mm.
Totally agree.
Mhm.
Totally agree. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so
And I wanted to thank everybody for all the answers when I asked.
yeah, it's good stuff.
Okay, so what about those sellers that they are wanting to sell?
Okay.
They have limited to, you know, hardly any resources, because you know that if there's any repairs that are coming up, they're going to have to spend their money in doing repair requests.
Mhm.
So how do you broach those sellers that are trying to sell their houses, but they have limited resources?
Great question. So I personally, I don't hire a stager. I'm kind of the stager for my clients. Now, if it's a super high-end property, even
We ain't talking about high-end properties.
yeah, but I'm saying if it was, then maybe I would hire a stager. But in reality, I think if they made their house clean looking, Marcia, and you know, the front area paint is super not that expensive. And I think you've even said that you maybe have provided that in the past. I think anything that we can do as agents to be super easy to work with and to help our sellers get to their next place, that we should help them do that. You know, but so Marsha, are you saying, you're saying for not for repairs, you're just saying for the looks of the house?
Well, for the looks of the house, I mean, I've been in some houses that were, I mean, for all intents and purposes, just was cluttered. So
Sure.
what I've been suggesting, and this is even before I even see their house, you know, I tell them that 70% of the stuff in your house has got to go. And of course, you know, they're thinking, oh my God, that's too much stuff. Well, shoot, if they take out 30%, I'm happy. So,
Right.
you know,
Right. Yeah.
and I give them
And
options.
that doesn't cost money, right? I mean, that's their time. So
Yeah.
I
And
think
to get them to, you know, get them to, you know, go ahead and start collecting those boxes because you are moving. You know, I try to get them in the mindset, you know, you're selling your house, you're moving, go ahead and start packing up. And then of course they get overwhelmed. And I'll say, you know, then don't approach the entire house. Take one room at a time.
right.
And if they've got kids, I get the kids involved.
That's smart. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot, don't y'all agree? There's a lot that you can do that shouldn't cost you any money. There's, you know, you can get out there and dig up some old landscaping yourself. You can get out there and trim some trees. You can get your house and clean your house, get rid of your clutter. I mean, and I think it's a blessing to them, Marcia, because once they get rid of that clutter, they're able to breathe and be humans. You know, when our lives are full of so much clutter and so much debris, I think it just weighs on us. I don't know if you guys think that, but I definitely think it weighs on us so much. Okay, let's pretend like we have it on the MLS. The pictures look great. We've written a great description. And let me tell you, your description, sometimes, man, I'm telling you what, sometimes I am like anxious about my description. And, you know, I have to wait for the photographer's photos to come through so I can walk myself back through it. I don't let my admin do my description. I want to do it. I want to walk through the house. I want to bring people into the house. I look up synonyms. I get my thesaurus out and just try to come up with some cool wording that would invite people into my listing. And I think that's important. Something I do, and you know what, I've had agents comment on it, is in all the agent notes for every single listing I have, I put, we are super easy to work with. I want them to feel like they can come to us and they can bring us any offer and we're not going to decline it. We may counter 80
I
times.
love that. Yeah, I
But
love
we
that.
are
That's really
super easy to work with.
good.
And you don't know how many agents, even after the transaction closed, like, you're right, you guys were super easy to work with. I want my sellers to know that I'm super easy to work with, that I'll pick up the phone when they call me. It just makes a difference instead of being a bullhead. So, you know, something else I was thinking, as far as marketing your home, if there is an awkward piece that's in your house, like for instance, when I first became an individual agent, I had a house where the driveway was super steep going up. Put that in your listing. Don't wait for the buyer to get there and not even want to go into your house. It doesn't do you any good. It discourages your sellers. It discourages the buyer's agent. And they're like, why didn't they tell us about this? So A, put it in your listing, and B, call those buyer's agents and say, hey, Claire, this is Andrea with Keller Williams. Hey, you're showing my house on Windsor Forest Drive today. Thank you so much. Hey, Claire, I just wanted you to know that the driveway is pretty steep. Is that going to be a problem for your buyers? And then I would let Claire say, you know what? I don't know. Let me call them and check. Or no, we've seen other steep driveways before. Or yes, my person is in a wheelchair. That will not work. So we're going to cancel. Wouldn't you rather know that now instead of an hour later and them calling you and saying, why didn't you tell me? Or what are some other awkward things? I'll give you another example. I took a buyer into a house that he was probably 6'3", right? And the ceilings in the house were super low. I don't know what was going on with the house, but they were super low. We just could not even, he couldn't hardly get through the doorways. I mean, he was not a big guy, he was super skinny, but he was just tall. And I think just thinking those things through to help a seller on the back end to get their home sold to a buyer that's going to get in there and fall in love with it. Okay, so let's keep going. We talked about staging the property. I will encourage you guys to, when you walk into your seller's home, and Marcia, when we have sellers that their house is just totally cluttered, it's hard to do this, but anything that you can do to encourage them, like, oh my gosh, your floors are gorgeous, or I love stone houses, can make such a great house for somebody. Anything that you could do to just give them as much praise as possible, do that.
Good way to get rid of some.
What? Marcia, you're muted.
One of the things that you can also encourage them to do is to donate their items, and have a
great idea.
List of organizations in their area that they can donate things to, and remind them to keep a receipt of those items, because those could be tax write-offs.
Awesome. I will give you a statistic that I thought was interesting. So NAR says that the #1 room to stage is the living room, and that's followed by the kitchen and then the main bedroom. I don't know if you guys would agree with that or not, but I thought that was kind of interesting.
And the room that needs to be the cleanest for me
Yeah.
is, you talk about pet peeves. I always look inside the stove and underneath the sink.
Oh,
And if the kitchen stove is nasty, I'm not. I think a different way about the house.
interesting.
And I like clean bathrooms. So I guess we all have our picky things that we
Yeah.
that we look at.
So I'm gonna say one thing, and we're gonna take like a 2-minute break after this if we can. So we're still talking about the MLS part of the listing, selling it online. I will say that sometimes clients will say, hey, do you think I should do X, Y, and Z before we list the house? If X is like a hole in the wall, let's say the hole is this big because their kid messed it up, and they think it's going to take them a week to fix it, I will say no. Let's hang something over that. You get to it while the house is listed, but we're not hiding anything. We're going to repair it, but I don't want you to delay a week, over that hole. If it's something like there's rotted wood at the front of the door, and that's where buyers are going to see first, and it looks like mold and it looks nasty or something, all day long, I want you to repair that before we list it. But if it's small things that we can write into the listing, hey, the carpets will be cleaned prior to closing, or something like that, I'm not going to hold up a listing for those type of things. Do any of y'all agree with that? Disagree?
I don't agree or disagree. I'm a buyer's agent, so I'm like, I'm not too sure on that specific of a detail, I guess.
So, well, Jonesy, that's great though. As a buyer's agent, because you're going to be the one to buy my listing.
True.
If you saw that in a listing and it said, carpets would be cleaned prior to, or if, would that bother you to take your clients? It probably wouldn't bother you, right?
It would not bother me. However, I feel like if the carpets are actually in pretty bad shape, or they have a pet smell, I think it would turn off the client.
Yes, absolutely.
But if it's just like normal kind of stuff, I think it's a bonus. It's like, oh, well, that's rad. They're going to clean the carpets for you. You don't even have to worry about that. So
yeah, that's true. And we actually just went through this. Jonesy knows this with one of my buyers that we actually had listed her home, and it fell out of contract because the floors were kind of so
like cat pee.
So it depends.
Yeah,
so maybe that
smelled like
wasn't
cat pee. That's right. I'm sorry.
That wasn't a good analogy.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is sometimes, Molly, there's going to be small repairs that us as selling agents, or people that are individual agents that do both sides, if the seller wants to hold up something for a week for something piddly that I think, heck no, we're not holding it up for a week. You'll get to it when you get to it. We're just going to let people know it's going to be repaired. If it's not something that's offensive, I think. So.
Oh, sure. And I know as buyer's agents, we really appreciate that, of course. I mean, and to my buyer, it's like, oh, just like Jonesy said, oh, if somebody's going to do this for you, this is awesome. They certainly don't have to. So it's very appealing. And you just, again, sometimes you just have to pump up your buyer and help them through the process and explain things to them,
Right.
I mean, that's your job.
Can we I'd like to take a 2-minute break because I forgot my chargers upstairs. I got to get it. Anybody go to the potty or whatever you need to do, grab.
Okie dokie.
We'll get back here in 2 minutes.
Sounds
Thanks.
good.
What are you doing? Do you need to go outside? Come on.
Hey, if that call's personal, you're not on mute.
Go potty. Go potty. Come on, buddy. Okay, everybody. Everybody back? How do y'all feel about sellers saying, I just want to sell my house as is? Anybody have any scripts for sellers that want to sell their house as is, or how do you feel about that? Anybody who hasn't talked? Claire, yeah.
I'm brand new, but my instinct would be that would show as like a red flag that there was something bigger going on with the home and might deter people from looking at it, even if there wasn't anything
Yeah,
going on.
that's my mentality too, Claire. So let's pretend like, or is there a different scenario though? Would there be a good reason why a house should be sold as is?
I mean, if it were like a new construction or like if they did a pre-inspection and are very confident that there's no problems, I don't know.
Or what about if it was kind of a crappy home like Marcia and I have been talking about? Maybe a house is totally cluttered and it's an estate sale and nobody can go in and get rid of all that stuff and they're just going to price it low to get it sold.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so is everybody back on, do you feel like? I don't know, everybody's muted. So we have the house and it's on the MLS. So you guys have already taken a class like CMAs and all that sort of thing, right? Did anybody talk about pre-appraisals when they talked about pricing your home.
Yeah, one class, one lady said she does do that. Another class, a lady said she does not do that.
Oh, okay. The reason that I would do that is only if it is very difficult for me to either find comps or I don't want my clients leaving a penny on the table. You know, I want them to get everything that they can out of their house. And right now, I press the market as hard as I can for my clients. And you know, sometimes we go out on a limb. Like I've had a client this year who has just bought 3 houses from me. The first house they felt like was too small for them. So we sold it. They bought it from me. They sold it through me. Then they're in a house right now that they feel like they can't afford. So they went from a little house to a big house they can't afford. We're selling that, and we pressed the market. They've only been in there 4 to 6 months, and we listed it, man, like $50,000 more. They did do some work to it, but I think the person that had it listed prior to me didn't do their clients justice, and they listed it too low. And so we pressed the market, and we got almost everything. We got like 5,000 less than what we had it listed for. So I think it's not going to have a problem appraising. So I will press the market.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Yeah.
And if it's totally off subject and doesn't relate, then just say, "Oh, I'll call you." Didn't they get kind of hurt on capital gains doing that?
No, you only get different. I mean, the only time that you pay capital gains is if you've made like 650,000 or more. You don't have any capital.
That was a good
gains.
question, Jonesy. I was wondering
Yeah.
the same thing.
Good question.
Because I thought they had to live in it for 2 years, but it's
Yeah.
a price money thing as well.
Yeah, and it depends. Like they can show that they put in granite countertops and they changed out some flooring and they did some.
Mhm.
So I mean, all, you know, they could probably show that. And I may be, yeah, you're right about the 2 years.
Yeah, the 2 years, I think that I remember that was a test question.
Now I will say this.
2 years single person is 250 and a couple's
Yeah.
500,000.
Yeah, something.
yeah, that's right. That,
But
yeah,
I will
remember that.
say it's a great question. Here's why. Their first house, they were not in it 90 days before we sold them. And we had to wait till that 90th day, because anytime you have a house like that, it's kind of considered a flip. And so as an investor, you have to wait. I don't know all the ins and outs, Marsha.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. So the house is on the market. We're getting ready to get showings. What are reasons to not show your house if a buyer wants to come see it?
Dead or sick?
Sick. Yeah, you're sick. Any other reason?
No.
Sorry.
What about you had your grandson's first birthday party, you know, scheduled at your house a month in advance? Yeah, maybe, right?
No. Hurry up. Get some people in that house.
Yeah.
Well, because of COVID, if you have a situation where your seller lives in the house and they're exposed, but they don't know yet if they actually have it, would you cancel showings?
Yes.
I would put a restriction on showing time. And what it does is it blacks out however many days.
Yeah, I've seen that.
I would not cancel every single individual, you know. I would write a remark in the agent notes.
Yeah.
So here's what I usually tell sellers.
Yeah, because if you cancel everyone, that kind of makes you look bad, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes, absolutely. And you can also temporarily take it off the market and put it back if it's going to be 2 weeks. But I will say, I tell my sellers, look, here's the deal. if showing time is going to be connected to your text and my text. So we're both going to get all the showing requests. Now you just press Y for yes or N for no. If you ever feel the need to press N for no, call me. I want to call that other agent and say, hey, look, you know, my clients have to get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow to be at work at 5:30 or whatever. I want to be able to call them and say, is there any way you guys can come half an hour earlier or something? I want to be easy to work with. I don't want there to be any reason why a buyer is going to turn their nose up to my listing. It's only wise for our sellers, you know. So those are some things. Initially, when my listings go on the market, I always do reverse prospecting. Do y'all know what that is? No. So reverse prospecting, and it's on Flex. We can do a screenshot about that. It may let me share my screen here in a minute. I can show you. But you can go into your listing. You can look up all the agents that are under GLAR who have clients looking for your type of home. And you can shoot them an email that it just went on the market. You can also pick up the phone, which I've done often, and call all those agents. You know, hey, Greg, this is Andrea with Keller Williams. Just noticed that you have a client who may be interested in my property at 123 Main Street. I just sent it over to you. Okay, let me look it up. Okay, great. So what do you think? Do you have anybody looking? Oh, that person went under contract yesterday. Or, oh, no, that'd be great for Joe Schmo, you know. So that's one of the primary things I do to market my listings. Another thing is door knocking around your listing. You know, a lot of people want to choose their neighbors, right? Or they know somebody who wants to be in the neighborhood. And you can just door knock around there, and you may pick up some other business as well. The majority of people who have their neighbors' houses, they've been thinking for the last 6 months that they may possibly want to sell too. So that's another great way to market your property. What are some other things you can do to really sell your homes that you have listed?
Social media.
Social media, yes.
Free, and you know, you can share and post and put it on your.
Yeah. She got a phone call. Anybody else think of anything that they can do?
One of the things that I like to do, because I don't do open houses on Sunday, and if the house is a cluttered mess, I like to have yard sale open houses.
Have virtual open house?
No, yard sale open houses.
Oh, cool.
Can you? Curious.
Sorry, I had to let my little doggy in. That's a great idea. Then they could sell their trash and sell their house at the same time. Okay, let's talk about open houses for a minute. How many of you guys do open houses or like to do them or feel like they're worth your time or anything like that?
I do. I do open houses generally every week.
Oh, good.
Even
Well,
if they're
tell us
not,
about it. You're an expert.
even if, okay, so not an expert. Even though if they're not on my team, which I'm actually looking for an open house this Sunday. If anybody has one they need help with, call me.
Okay.
But I have sold 2 houses this year as a result of open houses. And then I have
awesome.
other people cooking, other pots cooking on the stove. So if that makes sense.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have things in the pipeline from other open houses.
Yes, but I also know agents. So like I'm a second generation agent. My mother was a real estate agent. She wouldn't do an open house
if you paid her. She hated open houses.
Me too.
So I think it's definitely a personal preference, and I've had good luck with them. So
That's awesome.
It's.
How do you market your open houses?
So I set up a Facebook event.
Okay.
I put out on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I put out the open house information. And then this is something I just started doing when I got there at the open house I did last Sunday. I started doing a bunch of videos. I did an outside video. I did, it was a bi-level, and I didn't want it to look like the Blair Witch Project. So I did an upstairs video, right? And then I did a downstairs video, and people were just rolling through those videos online. I don't know if anything came of it, but a lot of people saw them, and that's what we want, is eyes on the prize. So
yes. Yeah. That's great. Do you always do them a certain day of the week?
So my team usually does open houses on Sunday, but when I went through Ignite the first time, somebody, I don't remember who it was, they were talking about Saturday open houses. And then I met a lady who I was talking to, relocated here from Virginia. And she's like, I can't believe these people in Louisville that do all these open houses on Sunday, because in Virginia, they're all Saturday. So I am seriously flirting with the idea of trying to do some Saturday open houses. So I'm not opposed. It's an interesting thought.
Yeah. So I don't know how many of y'all know Mary Jarrett in our office, and now she's married. I don't know her married name, but she is pretty hot and heavy, successful with open houses. And two things that I learned from her is, one, she does a 1 hour open house, and she markets it substantially. And what it does is it makes people want to get there in that hour. And it's like a feeding frenzy, because they're super excited about seeing this house within that time, and they have to be there. The other thing, and this is super important, especially in today's madness, is be wise and very careful. One thing that she does for her open houses is she keeps the front door locked, and she has a sign on the front door that says, welcome to the open house, or if you're here for the open house, send a text to Mary Jarrett at blah, 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 and she will let you in. The great thing about that is she already has all their information that she could ever need, and that's their phone number, and she'll get their name when they walk through the door. But it also, if anybody makes a comment like, why do you have the door locked? She's like, because I'm a single woman in this open house by myself, and it's a safety thing. And I thought, yeah, Shelley, I thought that was brilliant too. So she's a great resource for open houses. I'm not a great open house person, only because I am a doer and I cannot stand to sit. And I've done open houses, and I will do them if my clients say, but if you don't like them and your client is absolutely desiring to have an open house on their listing, then what I do is I'll say, okay, Eric and Val, that'd be great. Do you have a preference if I, as an individual, do the open house, or are you okay if I have another realtor do it? And most of the time they're like, we don't care. I mean, if you trust them, we trust them. Or if, as long as they know our house and they're not going to just have deer in the headlights, not know how to answer buyers' questions. So
if you tell the seller that you are going to have a licensed professional to come in to do your open house,
yes,
they will not have any problem.
That's a great point. Yeah, it's not going to be some Joe Schmo, right? It's going to be a realtor.
Yeah.
So once your house is out there, you've prepped your sellers, you have it on the MLS, you have agent notes in there, you've taught your clients how to do the showing time thing, and you're reverse prospecting, you're doing open houses, you're door knocking around the area. What other things? Is there anything anything else that you guys can think to really get this home sold?
Well, I have a question, not to
Sure,
backtrack because you're going somewhere different here, but I'm brand new at this, and I do have some questions on like open houses.
Yeah, absolutely.
What are a lot of y'all's stance on letting people just wander the house? Like, what do you do when a lot of people come in to just make sure that you don't have people in rooms that you don't, that you're not sure what's going on? Like, at what level do you try to control that?
Great question. Anybody?
Well, for one thing, don't have an open house by yourself. Get a colleague, your spouse, or your kid or somebody to be in the house with you. But you can always, well, when I'm showing properties to buyers, I tell them don't talk about the house inside the house. And you can always tell people before they come in that the house has audio and visual cameras, and that may deter them from doing that. Because that's what I tell my buyers when we're going in a house. Don't talk about the house, just because nowadays people are having audio and visual equipment in the house, and you never know when you're going to be on camera. So just be wary of that.
If I can jump in too, and I agree with Marcia, I tell my people, I assume that we are being taped, and both those videotaped and audio taped in every situation. I just naturally assume it, whether it's true or not. But I don't know which gentleman asked the question about people being in the house. So one thing that I do at open houses, and I may have lost my team member, a buyer, I don't know. But I had an open house last Sunday, and I had a group of people in the house, a family and their agent and their interpreter, actually. And then these two ladies wanted to come in, and I kindly asked them, did they mind waiting for the other group to go through? And they said, we'll come back. And they were kind of snippy about it. But it's just whatever. But, GLAR is saying that we should have only one group at a time in the house just for social distancing purposes. So that's what I did. So I only have one group come through at a time. I don't follow them around the house as the open house person. I don't follow them around. I don't know. What do you all think about that?
Well, my question is, I would, if you're able to kind of watch the door and watch the people, I would walk around and share, great things about the house with them. I would make sure that my sellers don't have any valuables sitting out and all those are put away. But it is hard if it gets, so one thing, like Marcia said, you don't have to do it by yourself. You could have just one of your vendors, a loan officer, they could come, they could provide snacks, your home warranty company, it doesn't have to be another agent. It could be one of your vendors, an insurance agent, anybody that, needs to drum up some business as well. I'd like to share my screen with you guys, and I'm not exactly sure if I'm doing this right. So my bad if I'm not. So can everybody see the flex screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So if you go under menu and you plug in reverse prospecting, like we were talking about earlier, you can click on that. You can click on, I don't have any actives right now. You can click on your pending, right? And then let me see if I can, oh, it might not let me.
You'll have to hit run reverse prospecting.
Oh, I couldn't see it because y'all were in my way. No. Run reverse prospecting. And it's going to run through every, okay, it says no matches because that's a high-end condo. So let's do a different one. Let's do Gamay. And it's going to show us all the agents who have clients that are looking. Okay. So here's Cheryl Barber. Couldn't say it. So I can click here and email her the listing. And here's her phone number. I'm also going to call her and tell her that I've just done that. And a lot of times there's like 25 people listed or something, but not today. So
what is this showing the agent who has properties listed that are like yours?
Nope. It's showing me that they have a buyer looking for my type of property that's listed. So I'm going to call them and say, hey, your name came up in reverse prospecting. What buyer do you have that is, looking at 11622 Gamay Lane, which has, it's a ranch, 3-bedroom ranch, 2-bath, basement, garage. Who do you have looking? And Cheryl's going to say, oh, they went under contract yesterday. Or she's going to say, well, Bobby Sue, they're still looking. So yeah, all day long, I'm going to send it over to them, And it might not show a bunch of people because this is pending. So people.
So is this something that an agent has to put, like they have to enter into the MLS that they have a buyer?
No, what happens is when you're searching and you have a search set up for your clients, when your client's searching and you have an automatic search that goes to them.
Oh, okay.
For a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, in zip code 40205 or whatever. And then you have something that comes up, it would automatically reverse prospect to them because they have somebody looking in that area. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I believe when you make the listing or like when you make the search for your person, it'll pop up and ask you, or it's a thing that you check if you want reverse prospecting on there. So it's not, I believe it comes up automatically. You just have to check it that you want it.
You're right. And it's wise right now because there's not much on the market. So you want your clients to get everything that's readily available as a buyer's agent.
And I use that tool as a way of getting connected or more sticky to a buyer because I don't connect them to Flex MLS until they give me their wish list and we go over it. And if we're going over the wish list, that means I'm at least getting to the point where we are doing our buyer's consult. Well, if I'm doing my buyer's consult, now I'm getting my buyer's agency agreement signed. So once they do all of that, I put them on the reverse search. I put them in the Flex MLS. So it is a way of encouraging them to work with me.
Mm-hmm. So let's go back to what we talked about when we first started. So let's pretend like Molly picked up that blue mug and it was full of tobacco spit, right? And do you think that she's going to buy that? No, she's not going to buy that cup.
No, she's not.
Right?
That depends on if that spit is turquoise.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Bill.
If it's turquoise, so spit them down.
That's right. So,
oh my God.
I think just liking it to anything as simple as Bobby's Lay's potato chip can, or Jonesy's dog's treat. I mean, liking it to anything like that when you're talking to your sellers and saying, hey, look, you wouldn't go and buy even $1 worth of Lay's potato chip if there was nastiness all over it. So why would you think somebody's going to come in for their highest asset and expect nothing less, nothing short of it wanting to be clean and polished and presentable? You know, that's what you want. That's what sellers need to have done before they can.
Yeah, and I think, you just have to put yourself like, what would you want to see if you were going to buy a house,
Yeah.
How would you want it to look? Well, you want it to be clean and nice too,
Absolutely. Yeah. We talked a little bit about door knocking. Something that is probably wise as well is door knocking apartment complexes that are around where your listings are. Those people, they pay gargantuous amounts of money that's thrown out the window every month that's feeding somebody else's family, instead of really building their wealth. We talked about social media. We talked about open houses, leveraging our database, kind of looking through your database even in your mind, like, who do I have that this house would work for? And I think that's encouraging to sellers too, when you're like, I have 2 people right now who I'm going to call when I leave here and tell them that I'm going to be listing your house because they are looking for something like this. Let's talk about, so the house is listed. It's been on the market a few days. People have seen it. You've gotten some feedback, haven't gotten any offers. I really highly encourage communication with your sellers so they feel in the know. Be sure to block out time in your calendar for following up with them. I don't know about you guys, but anytime I have a listing and we have a showing, my seller is on the phone immediately to me. What'd they think? What'd they say? Well, I don't know yet. They just left the house and they're not my clients and I wasn't there. Let me follow up with the agent. I promise you that I'm not going to, you'll be the first to know, but they want to know. And I don't know, I don't wait until one time a week. I let them know immediately. There is on showing time, you can put their email in too and send the feedback directly to them. There's lots of great things in showing time. You can send them an activity report. So let's see.
Anything that you can send them that's automatic, that you can send to them is going to help you out too, because you're going to get busy and things are going to happen. So make sure that if there's any automated responses that you can send them, to go ahead and do that.
Awesome. Do y'all have page 22 in your, if not, let me see if I can pull it up here.
Unless I just didn't open something. I don't have any pages of anything.
Okay, I didn't know if Amy sent you like a virtual manual or anything like that. Let's see. I'm going to share my screen here in a minute so that we can kind of talk through this to see how these could be of value to your clients. Okay, here we go. This share screen is pretty cool. So these are the communication checklists. And let's talk about why we think they could be value to our customer. So follow preferences. Always ask and learn about your customer's preferred communication method. Why do you think that's important? Whether they like phone call or an email, whether they want twice a week, once a week, immediately.
You don't want to get on there right off the bat.
You don't want to get on what?
I said on their nerves right off the bat. Like people calling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also when when I lived in Seattle, I had a lot of clients who did not check their voicemails, did not answer their phone because they just want everyone to ping them because they all work at Microsoft. So some people legit won't check their voicemails
Right.
or pick up their phone. So they like to text. And so if you don't know that, you're going to get on their nerves, just like you
Yeah.
said.
Yeah.
You
Or if
won't
you
have-
don't know that, you'll never get a hold of them, right? And then, wow. So matching their style in person or on the phone, always seek to match their communication style. What do you think that means?
I mean, I think it could mean a lot of things, but in my experience, I try to, read the body language, the tone, just the different personality types, and make sure, people who hate details, I'm not giving them a million details, and they're like, please shut up and just show me the house.
That's me. Yeah.
Different things like that, understanding how people want to communicate so it's more successful.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wonder if you have, so you have me, my personality is nutsoism. I don't know. So I'm like happy and joyful about everything, right? And I want to call my 86-year-old seller and I want to say, oh my gosh, Miss Ethel, you won't believe it. They loved your house, blah, blah, blah. But that may not be the best style for her. It might be more like, hey, Miss Ethel, how are you feeling today? Guess what? This is so exciting. These people really liked your house. I think that it can be a great fit for them. You know what I'm saying? Just kind of toning it down for those people. Always update. Updates should happen even when there may be no new information to share. What about considering if there needs to be changes at condition, price, or both? How would those conversations go? And how is that of value to your clients? Could it be that you missed the mark as an agent and you thought their house could sell for $150 and it's really a $135 house is where you're going to meet that buyer and you have to just have that tough conversation?
It's better to have that conversation. If you're having conversation with them weekly and they see that there's no activity, then the proof is in the pudding.
Right.
And that way you can say, you know what, we haven't had any showings and, you've got a great house, but perhaps we need to reevaluate some things. So let's look at the things that we can change, like price, because we can't change location. We've changed the condition. It's in great shape. So now let's look at something else, which the only thing we have left now is the price.
Right.
Or better yet, when you have that listing appointment and you know they're going to be overpriced, tell them, get a price reduction paperwork signed right then and there.
That's a great idea.
And then when the time comes, you can say, I think it's time to make that move.
Yeah. And that's a great idea, Marcia, just having all those conversations immediately. When I'm selling a home, I usually say, you know what, Tony and Steve, I don't want to leave a dime on the table for you guys. So here's what I would like to list it for. Now, we will know immediately whether we've hit the nail on the head or we haven't. And so just so you know, we are pressing the market at this price, which the market's allowing for, but we will know within a few days whether or not we messed up. And if we did, we have to go lower. You can't go up, And so, just having those type of conversations, and I think they would be in agreement that, hey, let's try it. and try not to leave any pennies on the table. And who knows, we may get a great buyer. But if not, and then they're not going to be so squeamish if somebody comes in a little low either, if we've already had that conversation. What about being prompt? Always respond as soon as possible or on the expected schedule. Does that mean 11:35 at night when they've texted you because they're up worrying about their house? What does that mean? Be prompt.
Always. I always let my clients know that I'm a night owl. So they, they're okay, generally speaking. And then I'll tell them, if they text me and I don't respond immediately, I probably have worked myself to death and I'm asleep. So generally speaking, I'm going to give them updates throughout. Also, I set up auto responders so that when I'm asleep in the morning, they're going to get updates.
I do something similar. I sometimes am awake late at night, not always, but I've had a lot of young clients that are awake super late. And I just tell them, because they're always worried to text me. And especially when the market was even crazier, it was like, and they were buyers, but they want to see a house. So anyway, I just tell them, look, I'm usually up late. When I go to bed, I turn my phone on silent. So you can text me anytime. I have another client who's a nurse. So she'll text me at like midnight, 2 a.m. all the time. I wake up and get back to her. But besides that, I always answer my phone.
Yeah.
So
you're going to spoil them. And then you're like me, like not having a minute off.
Be careful.
I do want to encourage you guys to take a day or two off every week. I mean, I don't care. They can wait. You have some of you are on teams, have your teammate deal with your clients on the days you're off. My days off are Fridays and Sundays. Of course, I didn't realize that I took an Ignite session on a Friday, but that's okay. And I really try to stick with it. Not always. Like I have a client I am taking out on Sunday because they don't have any other time. But I mean, you guys have got to savor your time with your family and to recreate. There's a scripture that I love, love, love. And it says, all hard work will bring a profit, but mere talk leads only to poverty. And it's true. We have to work hard to bring a profit, but that doesn't mean become a workaholic. So I really hope you guys don't do that. And I will say, just on a side note, if any of you guys are new and you need someone to go to your listing appointment with you, nothing out of your pocket. I'm here. I know that Marcia would be willing to. I mean, we're here to just help. We've all been in that space, right? We've all been new. And I remember starting at the wrong company. I wasn't with Keller Williams when I was new. And man, they did not want to help me one iota unless I gave them half my money. And I wasn't about to do it. And I did 2 transactions and then I was out of there and was blessed enough to found Keller Williams, where everybody's super generous with their time and super helpful. So just know that you have productivity coaches, you have seasoned agents, you have administrative help, and we're just all here for you.
And then can I say,
Andrea.
Oh,
Yes.
Is that Molly?
Yeah, go ahead.
You go first.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Boo. So Jonesy and I've been best friends for like 20 years. But anyway,
That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say something in response, Andrea, to what you said about being a workaholic. I'm a single mom, and I have a 7-year-old, and so I really struggled at the beginning to like find that balance, because I don't want to be on my phone all the time when I have her.
No,
I really don't. I'm big with her on like communication and be present. You don't need your
Awesome.
iPad. You don't, so that was hard at first. And even last night, actually, I had a client, you know how it is. They text me like 8 listings in a row, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I gotta jump on this, and I was reading with my daughter before bed, and that's our time. And so I just texted her and said, look, I'm doing this with my daughter. I can't wait to help you. I'm happy to help you, but it's gonna have to wait a little bit, but I will get back to you, so.
Good.
But I
Right.
think
Speaking
You have to set those expectations, especially with buyers.
Mhm.
I tell them that, they send me your list, but you can send me the list the night before, but we're not going to see them the next day because I need
Right.
24 hours. I need to make sure they're still available. I have to
Right.
I have to get permission to go inside them,
yeah,
so, tell them you need time because you want to make sure that the houses that you're showing them is going to meet their criteria, especially, if they say, oh, I have to have a 3-bedroom and they send you a house that has a 2-bedroom. Well, that's going to require a conversation before we waste our time. And
Right.
especially when buyers give you a whole big list of properties,
Right.
I tell them, okay, let's look at your top 4 or 5 houses because you don't want to waste your time
that's right.
on a maybe in this market.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Only the houses that are that are going to check off some of your boxes, not waste your
Mhm.
time on something that you think, oh, that looks nice, I want to see it.
Right.
And
And-
turn
exactly
the
right.
freaking phone off, new agents. Turn
Yes.
the phone off.
Well, and I was going to say, Melanie, our team leader, who I don't know if anybody knows, but it's actually my mom. So,
Yeah, she's like my second mom.
and I just started in July, and it was really hard for me to say no to people as a new person. I'm like, I gotta show them a house. It's a crazy market. Like I gotta do it. And I don't feel comfortable telling people it's my day off. Sorry, because I take Thursdays off. So Melanie taught me. She was like, look. She said, look it. Just tell people.
That's her saying. She says, look it all the time. Sorry.
Look it. Just tell them you have an appointment because you have an appointment to spend time
Yes.
with your family, or you have an
That's right.
appointment, or you have an appointment to do something with yourself. She's like,
Right.
and that's okay. And my mom's Melanie works constantly. So to hear her tell me that, I was like, okay, I can.
And I will say,
So.
we're part of a team. So it's like, if it's like a life or death thing and we can't make it, luckily we're on a team where we can help each other out. If it's
Yeah.
really, truly like, this is their dream home and there's only one showing on this day,
Yeah.
we'll help each other out like that. But I think everybody's right. You have to set boundaries. You really do. So.
And I will
Yeah.
say, if somebody's going to show a house for you and it's not a super box, make sure you tell them the combo before you go to the pool.
Oh my gosh, you guys, Melanie showed up so mad at us.
Make sure you tell them the combo.
That's right.
Oh, my Lord.
Okay, so let's kind of summarize. So we've talked about what we do to get sold. Talked about being a caring person. The relationship's bigger than just one transaction. I mean, there's no way that I would have gotten these. Let's see, buy, sell, buy, sell. Buy, sell, buy. I've gotten 5 transactions from one client this year because they keep coming back to me because our relationship is there. It's not just a transaction. I want to encourage you to make sure that you grab a partner this week and talk through the listing presentation if you're new at this. And then I don't think I'm supposed to talk about getting the house under contract, but once you get an offer, don't let your sellers dismiss any offers. Encourage them to always counter offer if they don't like it, and encourage them not to take it personal. This is just a business decision that the buyer's making, as it is a business decision that they're making. And they can't discriminate based on their feelings, not wanting to respond to somebody. I always tell my sellers, your first offer is usually your best offer. So even if it's not perfect in every way, respond to it and get that house off get that house sold so that they can move to where they want to go. Give me any ahas that you have or any questions.
I wanted to interject, especially when you're working with sellers, because it's been my experience when I'm working with buyers that I want immediate possession. And sellers have gotten to the point now, and I'm seeing more and more of this, where sellers want to stay in the house 2 or 3 days after closing. So make sure you have that conversation with them at the very beginning, before you go under contract. And if that is a sticking point, you may want to put that in your listing notes to the other agent that the seller will would want to have 2 or 3 days after closing. So that way that elephant is already out.
That's good. Yeah.
And Andrea, if I could jump in too, I'm going to
Yes.
piggyback off of what Marcia just said, because this is my second time through Ignite. And when I went through the first time, somebody said, as a buyer's agent, you should always call the listing agent, see if the sellers need anything that's not written in the listing. I do that every single time. And I truly believe that may have won me some contracts because I write to what they need and what they want if possible. And I understand that not a lot of buyer's agents call the listing agent and ask what they want.
I
That's
totally
good.
agree. And you know what? And there's been times, every time I do that, the agent's like, I'm so glad you called. You're one of the only ones I've heard from, and that you're going to be top of mind when you put in that offer, especially in this market where you're up against, who knows how many offers.
So can we change that around as a seller? Because this, and I appreciate that, this class is about sellers. Let's change it around. I always ask the buyer's agent who's showing my seller's property, how can we make this a yes for your client? That is my biggest question to them. I want to know, is it price? Is it they don't like the area? I can't do anything about that. Is it, that they can't see how their family could fit in it? What is it that we can do to help them see this house as their house? And I ask it before they show it. I ask it after they've shown it. I'm in constant communication. I want to sell my client's house for them. I did put my phone number and my email in the chat room. You can also go down in the chat room where there's the 3 little dots that says more, and you can save the chat so that you can keep the phone number and stuff that Jonesy said about her stager. Yeah. Anybody else? Any ahas? Any questions? Was this helpful? Did we waste your time?
No, oh my gosh, Andrea, Jonesy and I were just talking, and we're both pretty new at this, and
Who's talking?
Molly, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Jonesy and I were just talking about this, how this is one of our favorite trainings that we've had. And I mean, it's been very informative, and especially as a new agent, you feel like you're constantly learning, and I don't know, even 10 years from now, I'll probably feel like I'm still learning, but,
Absolutely. Yeah,
it's been really, really helpful. So
I like how interactive it's been. It's just so much better when it's engaging. Your mind doesn't wander.
yes.
Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely.
Good.
Agree.
Awesome.
You will constantly be learning, so don't think that you've learned it all. Because there are so many ideas, and all of the ideas work. You've got to find the one that works best for you and your personality and your style.
Yes. I'm in agreement there, Marcia, because like I said in the beginning of the class, I'm pretty rebellious. So if you tell me I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm not going to do it. I'm just not. And my mind doesn't work like everybody else's mind, Mine
doesn't either.
I mean, all of our minds are different. You have to find your forte, and you have to decide you're not going to be perfect at everything. So when you get all these people, you have to do open houses and you have to do this. you have to find out what it is that you're great at. And what I found out for myself is I'm great at relationships. I'm great at nurturing people. And that's what I focus on. I'm terrible at social media. Or technology. I'm just awful at it. And I quit stressing about it. It's not my focus. It never will be my focus. My focus is on my roadies. And that's just, so you've got to find, like Shelley, it sounds like you find a niche with open houses and you will get some of mine, girl. If anybody wants to do an open house, you're my girl. Cause it sounds
Me
like
too.
you
Sure, I
you
can't do it. I'll take it.
okay. But I'm just saying you can't do everything well. Don't you agree, Marcia? You have to find just one or two things and run with those and create the life that you desire to have.
And you're going to develop things, and don't be afraid to try something new. But if you're going to try something new, try it for 3 to 6 months before you give up and say, oh, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And you may just find something that's a little bit different. Because the girl that was talking about doing open houses, I don't like doing open houses either, but I love the idea of doing the 1 hour open house. So, tweak things that will work for you and your personality. And one thing that I am definitely going to stress to the newer agents, because this wasn't something that was really stressed when I first got into real estate, is you have to lead gen. You've got to get out. There are people out there that need you. And if you come from contribution, they're going to gravitate towards you.
Yeah.
So I have since we're having such a great open conversation, I'm sorry, my dogs are barking. I am so brand new, like signed on last week. So the whole solo agent and then people joining a team. And again, I'm so sorry, my dogs are barking. What breaks somebody up into a team? I know there's different teams, but what makes a group of people go, we're going to go on a team versus staying solo? Is that kind of an open question?
Yeah, I can say as someone who's new and joined a team, obviously it was easier for me because my mom's an agent. But I think the conundrum perhaps is they take a percentage of your commission. But for me, my team leader, she pays for all the signs, all the cards we send out, just a million things. She also, gives us her buyers and things like that. So we get more leads because of it. We have someone Molly, it's easy for me because it's my mom. I'm with her all the time anyway, but we blow her phone up. Any question, we ask her. She's super knowledgeable. So if you can find a team that you gel with and you feel like you can learn from, and it'll, it can propel you. I know she was on a team when she